What was your experience with that?
With ayahuasca?
Yeah.
Um, for me, with most of these entheogens or psychedelics, it's it's a more profound body based form of meditation.
Mm.
You know,
Like it
it takes me
skips
to that
steps.
same
It just
place.
puts you there quicker, you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't say it skips steps because most of them, your body, you have to pay a physical price.
Whoa,
You
what's
know?
that? Because I'm
Meaning,
I'm scared of a bad trip.
well, the bad trip is more the mental price. The physical price is, a lot of times in ayahuasca, there's a purge,
What's
right?
that mean?
So, it's funny. It's like the way I think of it, there's always a price to pay, you know? And so whether it's cannabis or ayahuasca or psilocybin, we're asking for a heightened level of experience.
Okay.
We're raising our frequency. So there's often something we have to sacrifice for that, and sometimes ayahuasca, you purge. So take the ayahuasca, and sometimes, I'll feel it like moving through my body, getting the toxins out. And then, even when you sit in ayahuasca, they'll pass around a bucket.
That can't be good for you. Everyone's just yakking?
It's not the same thing as vomiting because often it's not food. It's
Okay.
it's it's something else. Okay, so for instance, um, let's say you had an injury playing football. Okay, and for an athlete, when we have injuries, it's not only physical; it becomes deeply emotional because either it's our livelihood or it's what our identity is based off of. And so, if we're not able to do that because we're hurt, it messes with us. And so you'll see a lot of athletes psychologically, they have old injuries, but attached to the injuries is trauma, like psychological trauma. And oftentimes as they work through the physical injury, that trauma has to be released too in order for the body to come back to health. And so oftentimes our psychological traumas have a physical component to them. And so when you take the ayahuasca, in order to access the psychological trauma, the medicine in our body actually goes out and locates those places where we're storing the toxins
Whoa.
that are stuck in our body. And so a lot of times when we purge, that's what we're purging. Because even sometimes you'll see people will sweat, right?
Yeah.
And you'll purge because it's the body trying to release things that it no longer wants anymore. And that's part of the physical healing process that leads to the more emotional, spiritual healing side of psychedelics.
What I really like about just the way you view these different things is that you talk to some people who are like, oh, I did this, and it seems like that's the end, is like marijuana or ayahuasca. The way you look at it, I don't want to make it seem like it's dismissive, but it's like, this is a tool so I can get here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it is a tool to help me get to where I need to get to. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And I'm open to tools.
Exactly.
But I think that's kind of the perception that I hope more people have, instead of, oh, this taboo thing I'm doing, and then you go back to your normal life. It's like, no. Yeah. There should be a purpose.
Exactly.
Or why do it?
Because if you have a purpose and an aim, then you can judge, okay, this was helpful, this was successful, or this wasn't, or this was successful. I got some insight, but man, it wasn't worth it. I'm not doing that again, right? And then you find other ways to get to the same point in ways that are more pleasurable, more enjoyable for you.
I heard psilocybin's a really good tool as well, especially for athletes. I was listening, that Paul Stamets guy?
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to him on Rogan talking about it, and like all these athletes who are microdosing it. And there was one dude, he's on like the US karate team. He microdoses it, so it's like you're not getting high, but in theory, you're still getting like benefits from it.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about being able to see his opponent's moves before they happen, which is trippy. And then there's all these like mice studies with like traumatic brain injuries with psilocybin, which for me, like I've had a few concussions, so that piqued my interest. And like anyone who's played football, obviously you're getting hit in the head.
Yeah.
But just general benefits, it blew my mind, the whole mushroom thing. Like the mycelium world is wild.
I mean, it blows our mind because it's like we're in this crossover time where what the scientists are now finding out through modern research, if you go back to indigenous people, they were saying the same thing. They weren't using the scientific language because they had different means of perceiving truth, but they came to the same conclusions. And I think it's great now that we have the science to prove it, but I don't think we should be more surprised with, wow, how did these indigenous cultures that were, walked the earth thousands of years ago, how did they know this?
Yeah.
Because there's, cannabis, psilocybin, these are things that were used to assist in hunting.
Yeah, well, that was one of the theories as to why like brain matter made such a big leap. You know that theory?
Yep.
Yeah. And just in terms of like hunter gatherers picking up mushrooms and eating them.
Yep.
And I mean, it's a theory, I guess, amongst many, but I guess it would make sense.
Oh, hell yeah, it would make sense. And I think
Creativity, storytelling, probably just makes you a better hunter in general.
yeah, I think it's become more clear. Part of, I think, the problem with modern mind is our minds are so cluttered with useless information, you know? And I think back there it was simple, right? We're hungry.
Survive.
We're hungry. Yeah, we have to
Yeah.
eat, you know? And so whatever increases my ability to hunt and eat and survive, you know, that's what people focused on.
Yeah. Have you tried mushrooms too?
I have, yeah. Yeah.
How was it?
I pretty much tried everything. You know, tool wise, I find with me, psilocybin creates, and I don't mean this, I think this is part of the healing effect, is it creates a distortion, and that distortion can create a reset. And I think it's wonderful for a lot of people. But personally, for me, I prefer the expansive feeling of cannabis, you know, and it's an expansive and an increased sensitivity, but it's not a distortion. And I don't mean distortion in a negative way.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes looking at something in a different way, it unlocks us and it helps us see more clearly.
What do you mean by reset?
Reset, meaning, okay, have you ever like been stuck in a like a repetitive thought pattern, worrying about something?
Like if you're trying to find a solution to something,
Yes.
but you're just thinking of the same, you can't think of a
Yes,
different idea.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Or it's worry is another way to say it.
Yeah.
And then you talk to a friend and they give you a completely different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And
all
it
the
like
time.
resets you.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I mean. And I mean cannabis, fasting, meditation,
Ooh.
all of these things can create that reset.
I didn't even consider fasting in that sense.
Yeah.
Like how many hours?
Fasting. You know, there's intermittent fasting, but to me, like a 24-hour fast is an amazing reset button.
Whoa.
You know?
Like you just feel your mind's, because I do feel like my mind's more clear. Like I've done intermittent, like, 8 to 12, which is
Yeah.
standard. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people do that.
Mhm.
But like once it's like 10, 11 a.m., I'm hungry, but I feel like my mind's way sharper.
Yeah. The reset comes if you can overcome that,
Yeah.
you know, because it's a way of showing your mind who's boss, you know, because like eating is so important because it's part of our survival. But when you show your conscious mind that there's things more important than my physical survival right now, it's a magical reset. It's like your body starts to listen more.
Do you recommend the longer 48, 72, or what's your expertise on this?
If you have, this is where I would look at someone's astrological chart. But if you're in the right mindset and you have your schedule allows it, and you would like a reset, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like to me, the longest I've gone is 7 days with just water.
7 days?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
That's extreme. And this is when I was retired and I was traveling, so I wasn't doing anything. So I had the luxury of being able to do it. I wouldn't suggest it for everyone, but if it calls to you, be open-minded to see.
How is
Experiment
that?
with it.
We're like day
It was
3,
amazing.
4, you just
so
like
days
starving?
Day 3 and 4. Day 3 was the hardest, but after day 3, it's like I got over this hump where I realized so much of our need for food is conditioned. Even when a baby is first born, the baby's not hungry. The baby just wants warmth and a hug. It's not until you keep shoving the nipple in the baby's mouth and then it finally starts to taste it, that it's sweet, that it starts to develop hunger. And so hunger, we're set for it, but the eating is so conditioned, right? You see, whenever we do with our kid, right? Whenever a kid is crying, right? Give them some food, right? That's back to comfort food, right? There's something in our conditioning that food has become the number one way we comfort ourselves. And understanding that, but not always being enslaved to that idea.
So it's like the body doesn't need the food because you can survive for like weeks, but you're saying overcoming that urge to do it. And then once you pass that bubble or that threshold rather, then you kind of like reteach your brain. Is that
you reteach your brain and your body. It resets your relationship to food.
And
because it was weird
okay.
so after the 7 days, it was weird because I didn't have the same mind patterns to decide what to eat.
Ooh.
You know, it wasn't just automatic, right? I had to really ask myself, what is going to feel good to put into my body right now?
Yeah. And did it change? Like you had different tastes for
Yeah.
things
I became a vegetarian.
after that?
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah.
It changed. Wow.
I mean, that's
You just didn't like
To this day, you don't eat meat.
I mean, I was a vegetarian. That was 2004. I was a vegetarian until 2012.
And what made you say I need to, go
Just
back?
didn't
It
want
wasn't
meat?
even I need to. It was just my body.
Yeah.
Because even that, I wasn't planning to be a vegetarian. I just asked myself, what do I want to eat? And meat just became
Like repulsive.
kind of. We're just I don't feel like I have a need for it.